Today I'm going to show you how to repair a broken window. There always comes a time when you have made something that you absolutely adore and then something bad happens to it. And in my case, a BB got shot through it. This was outside, and so I've already done part of my repair. I have a whole bunch of pieces to go. The first window I am going to try and replace is this. Now, if it's an edge piece is easy to do because it's an edge piece. If you happen to have a frame around your window, you will have to remove the frame, and it's usually pretty violent. The frame usually won't make it, unless it's a wooden frame. But in this case, these do not have frames on them, so they are pretty much ready to go. If you have several pieces that have been broken, such as this one, always choose an interior piece first, because you need the stability of the rest of the glass in order to kind of, to take the impact of what's going to be happening when we break out pieces. You'll see it in a moment. I've already broken these two pieces out, but these pieces are also broken. And so I'm going to wait until these ones have been repaired and are soldered in, or at least tacked in, before I go and do any of these other ones here. So this I'll come back to in a minute, but let me start first with how to take out the piece, how to remove the piece. So here's what we have to do first. Because we can't try and melt all this solder, we have to break this whole piece out. So we are going to sacrifice this whole entire piece of glass right here. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to make about 1 million score lines all over. And be very careful so that you don't get any score lines on any of these other pieces. I've done that before. If you're working in a hurry, this is not good. And it's really not that great for your glass cutter to be just going over these score lines like this. Mainly what we're trying to do is we're trying to concentrate right around here because we don't want to have any of this glass left, or much of it. So now what I do is I take it out and I turn this over because I'm going to tap the back side. And so you want to be working in a place where you don't have a whole lot of, where maybe you have a garage floor, and the cleanup is going to be easier, because if you have small pets around, it's not a good thing. So now you got to be careful. Grab the pieces nearby to kind of prevent the vibrations. So pieces will just start falling right out. Oh, there they go. Anytime I've had students that have watched me do this, they always are a little bit horrified when they see their projects getting destroyed like this. But, when it gets all fixed, they're much happier. And so I am doing this with my fingers. It's really not a good idea, but I'm used to living with danger, I guess. So you can pull these pieces out. So what we're trying to do is not disturb the foil from this piece all around. We're not trying to disturb it. So I'm going to try and break this out. So I'm going to hold on to the pieces nearby. If you can hold on to the pieces that surround it, it will kind of lessen the possibility of you getting some cracks or fissures in your other pieces. So now I may have to put a few score lines. And so now just very gently with breaking, I just use combination pliers here, the breaker grozers, or breaker grinders, whichever you want to call them. And very gently, you're wiggling the pieces out of the foil. And again, you're not trying to hurt any of the rest of the window, you're just trying to isolate this one piece. Okay? While you're doing this, it's a good idea to have your iron heated up. because what we're going to do next is we're going to remove the foil from this broken piece here. And we're going to remove it without disturbing the rest of this piece. So I'm going to try and take out as much as I can from here. And I've got a little piece in there. Occasionally you can leave pieces in. I've done this, I've gotten to the point where I can do this with some of the glass left in the foil. So just be very careful. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing the foil from here. And so I've got it zoomed in on this little spot right here. But what you'll need now is you'll need a pair of pliers. You'll just need a pair of these pliers. And then you're going to be using your iron and some flux. You will not need any solder for this. So what I do is I've got it hanging over the edge of a table, and make sure that your project is supported on the rest of the table. Have somebody maybe hold the other end of your project so that it doesn't go crashing to the floor. So now again, you're going to be making a nice big mess all over the floor. So the first thing that we're going to do, you want to make sure that you've got your hands and knees and feet as far away from this as possible, because when the solder is going to be dripping, it's going to splat onto the floor and it may get you, all right? And if any of you know what that feels like, it's not good. So now what I'm going to do, I've applied flux on the top, flux on the bottom, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start melting. And we have to be really careful with this because foil is a very sensitive thing. If you've been doing this long enough, you know that the foil does not like to be overheated. And so here's what you're going to do. So this is, since I've ripped this off, I've kind of inserted the iron right in between to kind of get an end separated. And I'm going to use a lot of flux on this because I want to make sure that this melts away nicely. So now I'm going to grab onto this, and I'm going to put the iron directly underneath, and I'm going to start unzipping this seam. And so you'll see it as it starts to melt. And you only pull the foil away when you see that it has melted. And this is how you remove just that spot. So you're going to go all the way around. And I started going up at the top. Keep it going all the way around. So it's dripping all over the floor right now, and I'll even show you what a great mess it's making. The good news is, though, depending on what floor you have, if you have a concrete floor, if it's a smooth concrete floor, it should just pick right off. And so here, going around, melting the whole thing, melting a little off the top, a little off the bottom. So you just keep unzipping, unzipping. I kind of move above and below. Occasionally your foil will rip, but I'm just going to try and pull it off in one continuous piece, if possible. Just don't remove it, don't pull it away unless you see it unzip. And it really is truly unzipping. And you go around, you melt any extra solder off. I'm just going to show you the mess. Here is the mess. The foil, the broken pieces, and all the splattered solder everywhere. The good news is, though, it does pick right up. It just peels right off. Now, if I want to make a new piece, it's kind of simple because I have a nice corner piece. And so you can take a plain piece of paper and line it up really well with your edges, like this. Make sure it's aligned and aligned this way. And then you can take pencil. You can go along like this. Usually trace it a couple times. So now this way is facing up. So I have a little bit of a double line there. Got a little bit of a jaggedy edge. Now, you don't need to use pattern scissors. You just use regular scissors. And you cut right on the line. And you try and make, I usually I err on the side of smaller. Just because when you go to foil it, the foil's gonna take up space. And so I wouldn't worry if your pencil is too sharp. I'm gonna go about halfway in between those two right there. Cut it nice. And then what you're gonna do is, this is your new pattern piece. So you're gonna glue this on your glass. You glue this onto your glass, cut it, grind it, but before you foil it, make sure that you put it back in your window, because on edge pieces like this, notoriously, it will go a little outside your edge a little bit. So sometimes it helps to trim it down a little or grind it down when it's on your glass. So now I've got this scrap piece of paper here, and what you can do is you can cut it with regular scissors all around this outside edge. Since this is a place where two pieces meet, you can use pattern scissors, or you can just try and cut on the outside of a line. Maybe draw it a little thicker, cut on one side of the black line, and then cut for this piece, cut on the other side of the black line. So now I am ready to put these pieces in here. And so I have them all done, and these are the pieces. But here is the problem that I am having. Now they go in, they fit nicely, and they sit in here, but I'm gonna zoom in here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you just set those pieces right in there, they are going to sink. There's now a ridge right along in here because you've got the solder seams on the front, you've got the solder seams on the back, and they're lifting everything up. So the best thing to do is to take these pieces out, and my pieces fit pretty much exactly, thankfully. Put a couple of coins in there, and that should make everything sit at about the right level. So now everything sits right at the level that it should, and all you do is add flux. these two pieces right in here, I still have some of these other pieces over here and a crack right in this one. So now if I want to replace them, I would probably get the edge all stabilized before I would repair this one. But when you go to solder these ones in, just make sure not to solder this one because you're going to be removing this piece anyway. So don't be soldering right in here, just kind of leave it when you place your piece back in. Has to be replaced. This piece here. So if you look, I'm going to put several quarters underneath it. Set it right on there. And now we can flux.